us in the future type situation. But they're more extreme than we are in their leanings. But I'll sit there and I'll listen to the two of them debate back and forth, again, with the utmost respect. They're not insulting each other, nothing like that. They're even joking. Some of the stuff that they say back was kind of sarcastic. You know what I'm saying is ridiculous. And, just kind of get a rise out of each other for fun. It's cool. It's fun to listen to because I sit right next to them. And then I'll jump in with my part and just kind of bring it home, bring it down to earth.
Right.
Even though what they're doing is, when I look at it now, actually right now as I'm doing that, I kind of feel bad because they have a bit of levity going between the two of them where they're just kind of joking around, but I kind of make it a little serious in pointing out that it's completely intentional. That whole thing, the dichotomy between the two, and the differences. That's all there intentionally. Like the two differences that you have, even though it's in humor, it's not really serious that you're doing it, but at the same time, even though you're joking around, it's something that really does exist, and it exists for a reason. It's intentional. That's there, even though for you guys, you're just kind of joking around with each other, but it's something that's real and literal and does exist, and it exists in our reality for a reason. It's intentional. It's there to keep us at odds with each other. Mm-hmm. You guys are cool enough.
I agree.
Yeah, you two are cool enough to realize and know, and to know, or to be wise enough to just make it a joke. Cool, great. Unfortunately, the average person,
that's not the case.
It's not a joke. It's not a joke, and sometimes it can come to blows, and people kill over it. And just really, it's a really divisive issue. Mm-hmm. And my point that I just kind of bring home to them is that it's great that you guys are joking about it, but this is a real thing, and it's there on purpose to make us fight against each other so we can be distracted and fight amongst each other while they pick our pockets and put their boots on our neck. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? To argue about these things that really don't matter. Right. In the grand scheme of things, because the things that affect us the most as a society, like you said, are the financial issues. Until we address those issues, everything else can
until those issues are addressed, we will keep continuing to lose our civil liberties.
Right. They're obviously
we will lose value of our money.
Yeah,
our children are going to have no value in their money. They're gonna, and their taxes will continue to rise because
there won't be money. There won't be money.
Right.
It's all intentional. If you take a step back and you look at two different things, there's really two things that you have to look at the same time to understand what's going on. You have to look at history, and then you have to look at the stated goals of the powers that be of what the future goal is.
Right.
If you look at both of those two things at the same time,
what is the end game? What is the end game?
Right. And part of the end game when you look at history, and you see the other part when you read or see what their stated goals are. They want to eliminate money. That's the goal. It's intentional. To devalue the dollar is intentional.
Right. It would sure seem like it because it's happening right now.
Right, all you need is a little bit of common sense.
Yeah. And then when you a lot of people don't have an understanding of the financial system. Check out a documentary, Ethos, if you want to.
Beautiful.
If you want to look into a documentary that definitely plainly details the Federal Reserve System,
right,
and doesn't, it's definitely very informative. It's not too long; it's about an hour long. So
yeah.
It's
you can find it on Netflix. If you can't find it on Netflix, you should be able to find it on YouTube. I think I found it on YouTube before, but it was kind of broken up into parts.
Which is a little annoying. It is broken up on YouTube.
But so if you got Netflix, I definitely recommend it. I think you turned me on to Ethos, didn't you?
I did recommend that you watch that.
Yeah, I think you did. Yeah. And I checked it out the day that you recommended it to me, and I've watched it several times since, and I passed it on to others.
Yep.
And that's how it works. That's how it goes. But just understand and realize, people, that at the end of the day, it's important to realize, I think this is the point that I always kind of emphasize to people, until you realize this point, me personally, and it may be kind of douchey for me to look at it this way, but I'm okay with that. Until you realize it this way, you're only half awake, is the way that I look at it. Is that any of the things that you see that are screwed up, like if you're waking up to know that, oh man, this politician, this authority figure or whatever is doing this and that, and that's messed up, that's only half awake. If you see that, if you're able to see that, great, I commend you for being able to see it, the screwed up things that they're doing. But there's another part to it, a bigger part that I think is even more important, is to realize is that it's intentional. It's the intent, I think, that's even more important than having the knowledge of that they're doing something shady, that they're doing something corrupt. For me, that's only part of being, you're only half awake. You're kind of between that awake and asleep dream state. You're almost there.
Because you kind of hold on to hope, even when you see something bad that happens. You hold on to the hope that our politicians really are there for the public's best interest. Right. But ultimately, right. There's things going on.
The tipping point for me is to realize that, oh, snap, that's intentional. They're doing that on purpose.
Right.
When you get to that level,
yeah,
I don't consider it personally. I don't consider you to be fully awake until you get to that point, to where you're like, oh, that's intentional. There's a bigger picture here. They're doing this. They're doing A to accomplish B, C, and D.
Right. Which kind of leads me into Syria.
Beautiful. Right? I love it.
Yeah. I mean, now that I know, I can honestly say that last year when we were talking about chemical weapons or something in Syria, and John Kerry was trying to pander to the UN and get support to do a military campaign.
Right.
And then Obama even addressed the nation.
Right, with the red line.
But they were not able to get the support they needed to do it.
Right.
And even
amen to that.
And even when that happened back then, a year ago or so ago, maybe not even a year ago, I don't know, this time has gone by so fast.
Sure.
But now we're at this current situation where we have a group called ISIS.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew that there would be some kind of way that they would create something or an excuse. There would be an excuse.
They needed the excuse. It was obvious when they were gung ho. They were ready to go, and then the American people were like, no, we're sick of this. You had Iraq, and that was bullcrap. Then you had Afghanistan, and that was bullcrap. And now we know on top of that it was bullcrap. But you guys are shipping in the drugs. What? No. We're done with this. You're spending way too much of our tax dollars, way too much of our sons and our fathers to die for these useless wars for people that don't care about what's going on in their own world. There's something shady going on here.
Right.
And so they step back. It's again, it's obvious, and
I think it's funny.
It goes back to what I was saying about being fully awake.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying? Because you see that part, but then a lot of times people just stop thinking there. You see what I'm saying? That's where the thought process ends. But if you know how these people work, it's just like when they're trying to pass a particular law that you don't necessarily believe in. Okay, what do? They'll try to pass the law, then you hire a bunch of lawyers and you spend thousands or millions of dollars to fight against that law, and you win. They give up, they back off because you're putting way too much energy into it, so they back off for a little bit. They wait, they buy their time, and they know, I've got more money than you. You won that round because you were able to hire some really good lawyers. I know you don't have the money to hire more good lawyers to fight me again, so I'm going to come again. I'm going to come back at you again. I'm going to change the name of it, though, so it's not so obvious. But it's the same thing that I was pushing before, and now this time you don't have the money to fight me because you spent all that money on those lawyers before.
Oh, I think it's pretty... Alright, obviously I'm speculating here, but I'm just using my knowledge and using, there's a lot of lobbying power that the military-industrial complex has.
Right.
So I'm just using that as my, basis on my opinion.
Sure.
ISIS, what does the acronym stand for? It stands for Islamic State, Iraq, Syria.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's a coincidence.
Right.
And then I don't find it, and also I think it's a very big coincidence that Obama addressed the nation the day before September 11th. When he announced that he was going to do military campaigns against ISIS.
Excellent point.
I mean, I just think that's too coincidental for me.
Right.
Too coincidental for me, man. I can't.
There's no other way to put that. It's too much of a coincidence.
Yeah.
It's too much of a coincidence. It's so much of a coincidence that it's almost blatant. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's almost blatant.
Absolutely, just in time for September 11th, the day that all Americans.
And that's how they operate. They operate within it's too blatant. It's so blatant that it couldn't be because it's too blatant. You see what I'm saying?
Right. Right.
You couldn't. Yeah, because it's too much of it's so much of a coincidence that it couldn't be a coincidence. You see what I'm saying? No.
Yeah.
That's the game that they play. You know what? Let me play this clip really quick because we only have so much time for this show, but it's right in line with exactly what we're talking about. This is a clip from Russell Brand. It's a couple weeks. It's from a couple weeks ago when Obama made that speech that we're actually talking about right now. So it's perfectly appropriate for what we're talking about. The clip is about 13 minutes long.
Russell Brand. It's from Russell Brand, right?
Right, Russell Brand. Yeah,
okay.
I don't necessarily agree with everything that Russell Brand. And I always like to preface that point when I play anything by him because I don't want to catch any crap from people who follow a lot of what he says, because a lot of what he says is kind of pro-communism, and I am definitely not pro-communism. I'm not pro-socialism whatsoever. Again, I know I've said it before, but it bears repeating. Philosophically, communism, socialism, whatever you want to call it, makes sense because at the end of the day, like Mr. Brand has said himself, it just means sharing. And if that's how it really worked, awesome. Unfortunately, history shows us that that's not how it really works.
Right, history has definitely showed us that.
Right, when you give people the power to administer sharing, they end up keeping the majority for themselves and then become horrible dictators. They kill everybody else off because they realize, oh wow, I can have all this free stuff for myself and screw everybody else. So socialism, communism doesn't work. It's been proven it doesn't work. If it worked,
history has definitely shown it.
Right. It's so work. Enough time has gone by to where if socialism or communism worked, it would have worked by now. Clearly, it doesn't work. It's not going to work. It doesn't work. But for the most part, that being said, everything else that Mr. Brand has to say philosophically in regards to how the world should work makes a lot of sense. So I agree with a lot of what he has to say, the communism stuff aside. So
clarify that.
Yeah. So that being said, here's a clip from his show called Truths, which is really interesting. The title of this one is Will Obama's Bombs Stop Beheading? Russell Brand, The Truths. Here you go.
On The Truths, we are analysing Barack Obama's speech last week about military activity in the Middle East. The Truths today is brought to you by the concept of just because someone's saying something on the telly, don't trust them, go with your own intuitive reaction. You can even do it with what I just said then, but then if you do it, you're sort of you're in a paradox. Let's have a look at the speech.
We will hunt down terrorists who threaten our country wherever they are.
That's a lovely start already. We'll hunt them down. Like, you know how sort of when someone is brutally murdered, there's you feel a visceral reaction because of the brutality, and there's a temptation to use rhetoric that's appealing within the lexicon of violence. We will hunt down terrorists. Good, because I'm feeling this feeling. Why are you feeling that feeling? Because of the brutality. You don't like brutality. I don't like brutality. What's the solution to this problem? Brutality? Well, is it you don't like brutality, or is it you don't like brutality from people that live in a certain geographical region or a certain colour or have a certain belief system? Because here's my view. don't like any brutality. I think it's very important to acknowledge that the three men that have brutally, terribly, unforgivably